You spent 13 years in a building that trained you to raise your hand before speaking, to sit still for 6 hours a day, and to memorize answers you'd forget a month later. Nobody ever asked if that made sense. You just did it, because that's what you were told to do. That's not an accident. That's the design. The modern education system wasn't built to produce thinkers. It was built during the industrial era to produce workers, people who show up on time, follow instructions, and don't ask why. And 100 years later, most of that structure is still intact. Every 45 to 60 minutes, a bell tells you to stop what you're doing and move to a new room, a new subject, a new authority figure. This isn't about learning, it's operant conditioning. Psychologist B.F. Skinner showed that behavior shaped by external signals, not internal motivation, produces compliance, not curiosity. You're trained to respond to a bell, not to your own sense of when a thought is finished. Notice it now. How often do you still wait for permission, a notification, a green light, someone else's approval, before doing something you already know you want to do? Standardized testing rewards one correct answer, not reasoning. Students learn fast that questioning the premise of a question gets you marked wrong, while confidently repeating what the textbook says gets you an A. This produces what psychologists call learned dependency, a habit of outsourcing judgment to whoever holds the authority position, whether that's a teacher, a boss, or a headline. The people who challenge the premise instead of accepting it are usually the ones who end up running things later. That's not a coincidence. Raising your hand, staying quiet, not disrupting the lesson plan. These are graded as participation and behavior. Meanwhile, kids who ask inconvenient questions get labeled disruptive. The lesson underneath the lesson is this: agreeableness is rewarded, friction is punished. That pattern doesn't end at graduation. It just changes buildings. From school to office, public correction in front of a class conditions something else. The instinct to stay quiet rather than risk looking wrong. That's the same mechanism behind why so many adults won't speak up in a meeting, won't negotiate a price, won't challenge a decision that affects them. It's not a personality trait. It's a trained reflex. None of this means education itself is worthless. Reading, math, and structure have real value. The problem is what got trained alongside it. A reflex to comply first and think second. That reflex is exactly what makes people easy to manage, easy to sell to, and easy to pressure. Because someone who reacts on command is predictable, and predictable people are controllable. You don't fix this by rebelling for its own sake. That's just reacting in the other direction, which is still reacting. You fix it by noticing the reflex. Next time you feel the urge to comply automatically, to agree, to stay quiet, to accept an answer without checking if it's actually true, pause for 3 seconds before you respond. That pause is the entire difference between a trained reflex and an actual choice. Start there, not with rebellion, with one pause.